I got some troubles, but they won't.
We are broadcasting live from the Democratic Socialist Republic of Charlottesville, also known as Sugartown. We thank you for joining us weekdays from noon to 2. It was just a few days ago, following the recent city council meeting, that we got a picture of an Antifa-related person at the Charlottesville City Council meeting standing up and announcing the destruction of the Silent Sam statue, or the toppling of it, at a city council meeting here in Charlottesville, and threatening the city council publicly in the middle of an unrelated topic that Charlottesville was next, that if we don't soon take down our monuments, that we are next. And so when I saw this story, and it really is a blockbuster at Big League Politics, about the connection between what happened at Chapel Hill and what's going on here and has been over the past year or so, I wanted to spend some serious time with Patrick Howley, editor-in-chief at Big League Politics, to talk about the connection between the two. So, Patrick, welcome to the Schilling Show. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Rob, thanks for having me.
All right. So for people who don't understand what we're talking about, first of all, could you give us a quick rundown on Antifa? Who is this group, if we could quantify them or classify them?
You know, Antifa is really a national movement of left-wing radicals all over the country. And in this region, the leader of Antifa is a man named Dwayne Dixon, who is the cultural anthropology professor at the University of North Carolina. So one of the reasons that I went down to North Carolina and started doing some reporting in Chapel Hill was because I knew that this network, which was responsible for the violence in Charlottesville in 2017, was also operating out of this area. And they were focusing on Chapel Hill as their next point, where they were going to try to sow discord among college students and really destabilize these little regions that they go into.
So we have these threats going on against these monuments, and I want to talk about what happened with Silent Sam, and just in the context of the fact that last night I got a report from someone who was down in our park near the Robert E. Lee statue, and the orange fencing around it had been torn down, and there was a target that was drawn on it with chalk. So we know what they're planning here. Let's talk about the planning and how it happened that Silent Sam was taken down.
So Dwayne Dixon was the undisputed leader of this rally that happened a week ago on Monday on the University of North Carolina campus. Silent Sam obviously is a statue that honors Confederate soldiers who gave their lives and died, both black and white. And this was something that made people in North Carolina feel good, that, these people who gave their lives on this soil were, protected and represented. And, obviously Antifa used this as an opportunity to try to sow discord. The media reported that this was a peaceful student demonstration among the undergraduates at UNC. That's not the case. None of the people who were involved in tearing down the statue had anything to do with the University of North Carolina, except Dwayne Dixon, because he's a professor there. He invited his Antifa criminal friends, and we published the names on Big League Politics, and I stood outside of the Silent Sam statue just yesterday and in front of a crowd of people, and I read their names and showed their pictures. And the police have confirmed that they have the packet of evidence and they know who these people are. And one of them so far has been arrested.
So let's talk about whether or not there was a stand-down order. We've certainly had reports here in Charlottesville that such happened in a previous civil unrest we've had here. Is there any evidence that this took place in the toppling of Silent Sam?
Absolutely. I was standing right next to Silent Sam when the statue came down. I saw it with my own eyes, and we also captured it on videotape. And so that's up on our site, too. It is a police sergeant with the university police coming over after having a phone conversation on his cell phone, goes over and tells three other officers that they're leaving, and then all of the officers walk away. The Antifa terrorists are able to get their ropes around Silent Sam, and they pull it down together. And there were about 5 people who pulled down Silent Sam while the cops stood there and did nothing.
I want to ask where the accountability is. And by the way, the phone lines are open if you have comments or questions for Patrick Howley from Big League Politics, and you can go there now and check out this story. But where's the accountability for that stand-down action? I'm sure you're asking the questions. You've brought it up, but is anybody else?
Obviously WARL or whatever it is, CBS 17 here in Raleigh is working for the other side. They think Dwayne Dixon is great. but the outrage among taxpayers and bloggers and a lot of people over North Carolina is just massive. And I'm proud to say that Tom Goolsbee of the Board of Governors made a video and confirmed that Silent Sam will be moved back up with right to its rightful place within 90 days of it coming down. So Silent Sam will be going back up. The issue is, are we going to be able to stop Dwayne Dixon, the professor, and his 7 friends from Charlottesville who were there in Silent Sam before they go back to Charlottesville and create another, violent episode right there in your own hometown, Rob?
Then we need to talk about what it takes to stop these people, because I did look and see that apparently the people who were arrested, last time I heard there were 3 people arrested in this toppling, that, the charges were very minor and more like a slap on the wrist if they even stick. And we've seen the same thing here. So how do we change that?
Yeah, Lauren Alcoin, a good friend of Chelsea Manning, the big military leaker, she was, photographed outside of Silent Sam prior to this protest. But, look, this is a left-wing movement of radicals. These people are not going to stop. They were in Charlottesville last year. Dwayne Dixon, and I want all of your listeners to know this because this is so important. And this is the reason I started writing about Dwayne Dixon in the first place. Dwayne Dixon admitted to his class on video at the University of North Carolina that he took his rifle, his assault weapon, his assault rifle that the left talks about, and chased James Fields, the Charlottesville driver, right before James Fields plowed into a crowd of protesters and allegedly killed Heather Heyer. Dwayne Dixon admitted that on Facebook. He admitted that on video in front of his own class. He told his students that he took perverse pleasure in that because the result of Charlottesville was that, Steve Bannon and a lot of, populist Republicans were damaged politically. So he took perverse pleasure, and he talked about Heather Heyer as though she was a sacrifice. Okay, Dwayne Dixon was the leader of what happened, at Silent Sam last Monday and was very much involved in Charlottesville. And so the article that you saw that I wrote that we've been talking about off air is me publishing the names of all of Dwayne Dixon's deputies who helped him out to pull down Silent Sam last Monday. This is a gang of very dangerous armed criminals. And in fact, they all congregate at a mixed martial arts fighting center in Durham, North Carolina, called Elevate MMA. So these people are practicing combat techniques, and they are armed and dangerous.
He is the head, I believe, if I recall correctly from your piece, of Redneck Revolt, who was banned from coming back to Charlottesville by a legal agreement that they made with the city. And this is interesting because there were a number of people here who tried to exclude Redneck Revolt from that agreement, as many other groups were being banned from coming back to the city in an organized fashion. Would you talk about that, please?
Yes. So, there is a very good case, and you need lawyers. Yeah, you need to get some lawyers involved, but you also need journalists like myself. And I'm covering the Corey Stewart campaign very closely, and in fact embedding with the Corey Stewart campaign. And so as he campaigns around Virginia talking about these kinds of issues, I'm writing about people's reactions. And a lot of people are waking up out there around the state. And so over the next 2 months, Charlottesville is going to be a prime epicenter of a lot of political activity because the left and Antifa is going to make that's their crown jewel. If they can do things in Charlottesville or near the University of Virginia, which is usually associated with what they consider the Republican old-time establishment in the South, targeting your area is what they're going to be doing. And so, Corey Stewart's out there talking about it. I'm out there reporting on it every day. And so, Charlottesville is going to be, a place I'm going to be spending a whole lot of time in.
Well, when you come here, we'd love to have you in studio to continue the conversation. We're talking with Patrick Howley, editor-in-chief of Big League Politics, on the Silent Sam teardown in Chapel Hill and the Charlottesville Antifa connection. I'm sure you're aware of this, but there was actually chuckling at the city council meeting the other night when they heard that Silent Sam had been torn down because our city manager, the recently fired Maurice Jones, had just taken a job with the same position in Chapel Hill.
Unbelievable. The network goes back and forth between North Carolina, but it's based in Durham, North Carolina. So a lot of the violence from Antifa that you saw in Charlottesville was coming from North Carolina, from the Durham affiliate, and that was the affiliate that was there a week ago at the Silent Sam rally. So, once you recognize that and you see how these people communicate with one another and network, and they go around the country and coordinate, then you can start to see what their plans are. And obviously, their next target is Charlottesville.
You had mentioned the resolve of one particular board member at the University of North Carolina who is resolved to put the statue back up again. I guess the question is, what is the long-term plan? Because these groups certainly seem to have a lot of resolve in just tearing it down again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the university police that stood down. So obviously, they would not have stood down if Chancellor Folt did not want them to stand down. She's the chancellor of the university. And it's funny to me because one of the violent criminals actually said to me right after, "Oh, well, we didn't have any injuries here tonight." That was their talking point. Now, there were people getting hit with smoke bombs. There were people getting punched in the face, including myself. And by the way, I filed assault charges against Dwayne Dixon, current professor at the University of North Carolina. He punched me on camera. He grabbed my phone and hit me repeatedly. So there were a lot of people getting hurt. But then the chancellor came out with a statement saying there were no injuries tonight. So obviously they had that talking point ready to go for the media.
So if you have this on video, you have a state employee, in essence, who has attacked you physically. Why is it that that individual has not been arrested? You certainly have the evidence.
I definitely do have the evidence. Thousands of people saw it. I'm the prosecuting witness against him in 1 month. But, look, this is all political. This is all political. Now, 10 arrests have been made. But the main leaders of Antifa who staged this, like Dwayne Dixon, Sam Terry, Josh Muschorka, these people who are coming to Charlottesville, these people who are making it known to their supporters that they're going to Charlottesville, these people have not been arrested because it's politics. And if you think police are above politics, you obviously haven't seen any mob movies. But this time it's not Joe Pesci, it's left-wing communist radical college professors who are the mob.
So I want to go finally to, because obviously we have massive failures at the local and state level law enforcement. Is this an issue for the United States Department of Justice and other federal law enforcement? And are they big enough and are they strong enough to take on this mob?
The FBI and the Department of Justice need to clean themselves up because, I would rather not have FBI involved in this than have them there. That's the point we are with the FBI in this country. If you look at what Peter Strzok and John Brennan and some of these people did in our deep state over the last couple of years with Trump as president. And Charlottesville was an operation that, shall we say, the deep state and the corporate media paid a whole lot of attention to, and they certainly cared about the story. They don't care when black kids get shot in Chicago, but Anderson Cooper and everybody was down in Charlottesville when James Fields hit that person, and they weren't reporting that Dwayne Dixon was chasing him with a rifle.
If people want to get more information on your reporting, to read this story or other things that you're doing, Patrick, tell us how, please.
So I'm on Twitter. I'm Howley Reports, Howley. It's my last name, Howley Reports. And I do this website, Big League Politics, which is just a labor of love. It's becoming very popular, even though, it's really just me and a few of my friends writing it. But we're breaking a lot of news. And what we're doing is we're showing that you don't have to listen to the mainstream media anymore because you can just go on the Internet and get what's actually going on. And we report the real facts.
Patrick Howley, thank you so much for reporting those facts to our audience here in Charlottesville. I really appreciate it.
Mr. Schilling, I love your show. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, and God bless, and be safe because, standing up in this day and age is a dangerous thing to do. Here's a reporter who is just there to observe something going on, a crime being committed, and assaulted, unfortunately, by a state employee in North Carolina, a university professor, and this guy is not in jail. We've got real problems, deep problems with law enforcement and our judicial system in America.